We lock up toothpaste in New York City under Eric Adams and not criminals.
But I will say, and I talked about this with the mayor on Tuesday, but crime is down. I mean, if you look at the statistics here today, I'm glad I'm entertained.
Wait a second. I'm in all 350 neighborhoods. No other candidate is there. I ride the subways every day. Find me a New Yorker who says they're safer. Are you kidding? Their number one concern is crime and the subways, and they can't go out at night. Of course Eric Adams is going to say that. He says it's a perception. It's all in our mind.
Illuminati is a thing you need to watch out for. They want to depopulate and slave us so much more. World domination, I'll get into that later. I'm hardcore, fierce and sexy. You're just a hater. You deserve the ridicule because you're an absolute zero. I'm the keeper of the chalice, a rock and roll hero. I'm not an idiot nobody listens to, because I'm not a failure in life like you. Let's talk about Bill Gates and the mark of the beast and the orgies in the streets at the Catholic feasts and Bill and Hillary's human trafficking ring. And George Soros got the money to pay for everything. Socialism is for losers, working for the devil, chumps that can't fight, they ain't on my level. It takes an evil one to try to debunk and doubt it, so I'd rather die than stop talking about it. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out for the Illuminati.
I know what I know. I do what I do based on what I know. And if you feel that that may or may not affect you in some type of way, why don't you do a little research on me to figure that out for sure. Welcome to the MC Too Tall Show. I am your hardcore, fierce, and sexy host, MC Too Tall. Now, we're looking into this mayoral election yet once again. And Curtis Sliwa coming up in the polls. He's coming up in the polls. It's basically a four-way tie now. Basically a four-way tie. They still, with a little bit of margin for error, have Cuomo a little bit ahead of Sliwa and Mamdani ahead of the rest of the pack. That's because of the, quote, honeymoon phase, unquote. And we saw something like this with Kamala Harris when they announced her candidacy, when they used a very undemocratic method of pushing Joe Biden out with Nancy Pelosi leading the charge, and installed Kamala Harris and told the Democratic voter, shut up and vote for her. And there were dumbasses in droves that voted for her anyway. We saw them do this with Biden edging out Bernie in 2020. And of course, when Bernie first got edged out, it was by Hillary Clinton. They pushed out Bernie, brought up Hillary in 2016. So, ironically, there's no democratic process when picking a Democrat candidate. Ironically, they're selected, not elected. And here we are. The Republicans, on the other hand, although historically they've been known to be pretty authoritarian over the last, say, 20 years or so, or I should say the first 16 of the last 20 years, they've been known to be pretty authoritarian themselves, but those Republicans are being phased out. We are looking at a different Republican Party. We're not looking at people pleasers, or should I say, the pleasers of people in high places. So your Romneys are being phased out, your Cheneys, Lindsey Graham's, Mitch McConnell retired. I mean, they're being phased out. And we're getting in a more vigorous, more vibrant, energetic Republican Party. And that's when you have your people like good, fine people like Chip Roy, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, Nicole Maliotakis, Elise Stefanik, and Guardian Angels founder Curtis Sliwa, who's been around quite a few years. In fact, I would say he's dedicated decades to public safety. Public safety, as I said before, is priority one in New York City. You cannot tell me that public safety is not the number one by a long shot. Number one by a wide margin, the top priority in New York City. Crime is running rampant. And of course, crime runs rampant because of the Democrats. Now, who remembers when we rang in New Year's 2024? We rang in New Year's 2024 with cops getting beaten up on the watch of Eric Adams. And these cops were beaten up by a Venezuelan gang, and we later on found out that gang was Tren de la Agua, the same gang that raided apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado. And so Aurora's got other issues now. They're releasing dangerous child sex offenders under the guise that they are trans. And you could go look that up. I even did a video on that myself recently. And so Aurora's got some issues. As you know, LA has their share of issues. Chicago, New York is pretty bad as well. As you've just seen, cops are getting beat up on Eric Adams' watch. He's a continuation of Bill de Blasio. So we've already had 12 years of Bill de Blasio. We had the real shithead for the first 8 years, and we have the swagger man Timu knockoff of that for the last 4 years. Why extend it to a full 16 years? And you could say, well, yeah, the city's bad and it will continue to be bad under Adams, but it could be so much worse under Mamdani. Let's get everybody together. Let's get everybody together and rally behind Adams. Why rally behind a failed mayor? Then you got some people, well, Cuomo was the governor of New York. He handled a much bigger territory than New York City. Maybe he could handle New York City. He handled New York State like trash. And he has no regard for human life. You saw what he did with the senior citizens, cramming COVID patients into senior homes, into nursing homes. And as a result of that, many senior citizens who would still be alive today are not. That's a tribute to a Democrat, Andrew Cuomo. And he wants to take credit for how he handled COVID. He ought to be embarrassed about how he handled COVID. As a matter of fact, he ought to be in jail because of how he handled COVID. Now let's take it back to Curtis Sliwa. As I said, a person who's dedicated his life to public safety. A good 40 or more years of his life he dedicated to public safety. He stood up against a mob in the name of public safety. He's always advocating for public safety. And Democrats don't man up when it comes to going up against violent criminals. Now, Zohran Mamdani wants to talk about things being affordable housing and things like that. Well, how about you convert these abandoned buildings, these big, strong, abandoned buildings that have been neglected, but not faltering to the point where they need to be condemned, but they can be refurbished, revamped, remodeled, and converted into affordable housing. That's what Curtis Sliwa wants to do, and I think that's more feasible than the idiocy coming out of the mouth of Zohran Mamdani. The guy does not know what he's talking about. Remember his one city-run supermarket in each of the 5 boroughs? Yeah, that wasn't going to be paid for by some pot of gold that he thought he could put his hands in. That money wasn't physical money. It came in the form of tax breaks to businesses. So basically, those businesses were allowed to keep a larger amount of money that they already had rather than give it away in taxes so they could reinvest in the business and get better quality products at more affordable prices and pass that savings on to the customer. So there goes that plan. That plan went bust before he got his foot in the door. And God willing, that man will not get his foot in the door because we have an angel in the name of Curtis Sliwa. And people say, well, stick with the devil you know. The city sucks under Eric Adams, but stick with the devil you know rather than the devil you don't know, because Zohran Mamdani, he's the devil you don't know. Eric Adams is the devil you don't know. Why choose among devils when you can pick an angel, a guardian angel, the chief guardian angel, Curtis Sliwa? And let me tell you something. God has been on this man's side. Okay? This is a guy that almost died at the hands of the mob. He almost died at the hands of the mob. You had Ed Koch finally showing up in person to see Curtis Sliwa on what Ed Koch thought was Curtis Sliwa's deathbed, because he brought Colonel O'Connor along with him to pay last rites. And, you know, he had that brush with death and he survived all these years. So, you can't tell me that this man isn't boots on the ground handling public safety. So, I don't want to hear it. He doesn't stand a chance. He doesn't stand a chance. He doesn't. Well, if every registered Republican in New York votes Republican, if every independent that doesn't want same old would vote Curtis Sliwa, Sliwa's in. It's virtually tied up, give or take a decimal of a percentage point. So let's do the right thing. Let's get the right man in there. I'm using all my power and influence, all of my power and influence to get him in there. And that's it, baby. That's it. Respect God. Watch out for the Illuminati. Follow and share my wonderful and exciting content. Stay strong. Keep kicking that slang. It's your boy in the building, hip-hop legend, recording engineer, underground rock and roll hero, who just so happens to be hardcore, fierce, and sexy, MC Too Tall. Oh, and check out my music, too. People like my music.